All right, guys. Ryan Matthews from Optimum Athletes. Got a special guest with us here today, one of my longtime friends, training partners. Don't think we were ever teammates, but we were definitely on the other side of each other in the minor leagues a little bit. Like I said, we trained together a lot. We'll probably get to some of those stories. But without further ado, we got Max Stassi, catcher for the Anaheim Angels. Max, we'll start it off with... You excited for this season, man?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm thrilled. Been training in here this offseason. Had a surgery on my left hip. Got that repaired, so doing the rehab here at Keim with Evan. And then, doing my throwing program with you guys. And then getting some swings in, too. So
nice.
Got it all here, all in one, and it's been great.
Love it. All right, so first thing I kind of wanted to ask Max was about his off-season training every year. When I was still playing, I trained with Max and his brother Brock at our off-season training place. And Max, you were, I don't want to make this sound bad, but it's like you were kind of in there, then kind of out of there, kind of in there, kind of out of there. And it wasn't that you weren't doing stuff, but you always were trying to find more for yourself. And that's one thing that I look back on my career, and I wish I would have been more like you. Where it was like, if you didn't feel like you were getting something out of your training, you took it upon yourself and didn't make it anybody else's problem. You were like, I got to go find this. So how did you find the confidence and the ability to like know what you needed and like know kind of maybe if everybody else is training at this place in town and you're not getting what you needed, how did you feel confident to go seek out what you needed?
I think the big thing for me was, for those who don't know, I had a big injury in high school, shoulder, going into my draft year. So I didn't have a whole lot of help there. There was a bunch of people that were trying to help throughout that time, but I was kind of left on my own at an early, young age. And that kind of like sparked something within for me that if I want to, play this game for a long time, I know that I have to take care of my body and I got to go seek out those answers for myself. At the end of the day, just reality is nobody's losing sleep over you.
Right.
Your parents might be, and your close family and friends, but you have to take ownership of your career, and that's something that I felt that with the injuries that I've had, and I've had probably 5-6 surgeries now in my career, to be able to just really take ownership over everything I've done, and if I just didn't feel right, I would go out and, I would talk to other guys. I would ask questions. And I think it's through experiences and failures, too, that everything that I've done and every place that I've sought help from maybe hasn't helped me completely. And
right.
Maybe I was going down some, bad rabbit holes. But I learned something from that, and I was able to check that off the box and know that, hey, like, this doesn't work for me. Cool. Like, I tried it out, and then I'm able to, like, shrink the amount of stuff that I've, dove into, and I know what works, and then I have this clear focus on what I want to do.
That's amazing. I just want to commend you on that and give you a compliment, man. You've done an amazing job from when I seen you as a young 18-year-old coming in just drafted by the A's, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of a wily vet in the minor leagues, and let's get to that a little bit, man. I know you're an intense guy when you train, For those of you that don't know, Max spends probably 4 to 5 hours in the gym every day, and that's just the way he is, man. So one thing, I'll tell a short story about how Max and I kind of, in our training environment, we were training one time and the radio was going, and I had my music on there, and I'm kind of the oldest guy in the gym, and Max is squatting, and he comes over and he changes the song for his set. And I just remember walking over to Max and I'm like, hey, until you got more weight than me on the bar, don't ever touch my music. And he just kind of politely went and pushed it back. And I think it was a month or two later, we were squatting and here comes Max and he changes the music. And I turn around and look at him and he just kind of points at his rack and he's like, I'm squatting more than you. And I just turned around, tipped my hat, and let him change the music. So Max, it's kind of that competitive environment that I see you take on still to this day. Like, we got young pro guys in the gym, and like, if they're not going about it the right way, like, you'll kind of let them know. Like, so how important is Like that little bit of, I mean, that's a fun story that we had, but it was happening because we wanted to be competitive in the gym. How important is that competitive environment when you're training?
I think it's huge. And I think here at Optimum Athletes and you know, with Kime, you know, the environment that these guys bring every single day and the intensity that these guys have is, you know, it's pretty special. And I think it's important as far as culture becomes and getting the most out of yourself too.
Yeah.
And being able to hold your, you know, the guys you train with, your teammates accountable, to also push yourself too. Because, you know, if you're going to call somebody out or say something, you better back it up, or you're going to lose credibility real quick. So those little things, I feel like it's important to create the competitiveness in the weight room while we're not on the field.
Right.
Because I remember something you told me when I was younger is you want to make your training harder than the actual game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a fine line. You know, I'm in here for quite a bit. I don't necessarily lift heavy weight for 4 or 5 hours, but I got different, you know, hip stuff that I do and core stuff, and, you know, I'll talk to some guys, hang out. But also the importance of, like, you got to make your training session harder than the actual game, or else the game will always be harder than what you're doing.
That's a great point, man. That's outstanding. I'm going to touch a little bit more on, I guess I threw it out there that you're in the gym for 4 to 5 hours. What does that look like? You know, I tell young kids all the time, the biggest difference between the high school age group and the pro guys that I played with, especially, I'll take it even further, the guys that were successful and that have played as long as you did, played with guys like played as long as with some of the guys that I played with, like Jason Worth and those guys. And man, their scope of work looked different than a lot of guys, right? They were either in the weight room or the training room and taking care of their routine. And I see you do that. And like, getting back to my point is, high school kids will come in the gym and they're on the throwing wall or in the squat rack, you know, 20 minutes after they walked in. I don't have one pro guy that doesn't spend an hour almost prepping his body to get ready to prepare, you know. So let's just go through kind of like what that long day in the gym looks like. I mean, I even see you eat meals in here sometimes in between, you know, stuff. So just kind of walk us through your day, man.
Yeah, so my typical day, I wake up, I usually have 2 glasses of water, and then I go with 4 over easy eggs, a bagel, avocado every morning. I go, you know, 2 cups of coffee and then roll in here. I'm very routine oriented, and it started, I would say, at a young age. I would go to Sac City mental skills clinics put on by for our director of player development with the Mariners now, Andy McKay.
Yeah.
You know, he established, obviously, before him, Jerry Weinstein, and then, you know, with Andy to continue the success that they've had, and you went there. And
yep.
I mean, the list of big leaguers and successful baseball players is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
So a typical day is, you know, wake up, I have my breakfast, come in here. First thing is I jump on the table. So I jump on the table. I work with Evan for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
He works on the things that need to be worked on with my hip, recently having a surgery there. He goes in and releases the muscles. We kind of talk about where I'm at that day, what he thinks I need to do, and then he comes up with my program, which is awesome. Here he writes it out right on the whiteboard, and then I have my own personal stuff that I do. So then from there I release stuff, more things that you know, like my upper back, you know, to get my T-spine mobility, my hips, and then after that I'll go in and activate my hips. I got a whole hip routine. I'll pick like 2 or 3 different things from there, and then I'll get my core fired up. And then recently I started hitting, so I'll start hitting. I've done T-work, flips. Yeah, I got a progression there that I'm going through.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'll take a little break, and then I'll go in the weight room, and then I have the stuff that Evan gave me, the sheet of the workouts and rehab stuff that he wants me to do. And then after that, I'll take a little breather. I'll, you know, grab a bite to eat. I'll bring in my food usually. Peanut butter and honey sandwich, piece of fruit, pretty similar every day. And then after that, you know, I'll do my throwing stuff with you guys, get on the wall, do my plyo stuff, go through some long toss or recovery day. And then End of the day, do a little bit of recovery things, stretch out, kind of just see where I'm at, and then go home and try to sleep as much as I can and do it all over again the next day.
That's great, man. That sounds like a full-time job. No, guys, I wanted to touch on that because I knew Max is very routine-oriented, and one thing that I've seen that is very linear with a routine is guys' success. Like I said before, like Jason Worth is one of the ones that comes to mind. He was probably one of the longest tenured teammates that I seen do it, that I got, I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time with, right? And this man was so routine oriented, it was not even funny. And I think it was very, it was why he was the way he was every time it came game time. This man turned it on better than anyone else. And I think it was because his routine that he went through pre-game, once it ended, it was like, let's go. I'm ready to play a baseball game. Mm-hmm. And just for example, like this guy would show up, he would do whatever he needed, like you said, in the training room with his trainers, prep-wise, eat, do whatever BP-wise. Every day I'd go into the weight room to get my supplements, that part of my routine. And this man's in there 30 minutes before game time finishing up his intense lift right before game, because that's how he liked to do it. He's in full uni and cleats on the lifting platform throwing weight around. And he did it every day almost, you know what I mean? Like that was part of his routine. So how important is that routine to get you ready to play? And also that looks like a very similar day to whenever you're in spring training, to whenever you're in season and you show up to the yard, like you're spending the same amount of time. So one, how important is that routine to you? And then two, how important is it to make that routine look like your daily in-season routine?
I think routine is everything. I think that's one of the first things as a young athlete you should establish and know what you need to work on, and surround yourself with people that are in here in this facility, with Kym on the body side and how your body moves and what your weaknesses are, and have them evaluate that. On the pitching side, you guys can cover anything head to toe as far as your arm action, what your strengths and weaknesses on pitches, how you spin balls. So you're able to surround yourself in here specifically with people that are smarter than you. So I think that's a big thing as far as going into your routine, is talking to people. Okay, what do you think I need to do each day? Listen, okay, if you do this, this, and this each day, you're going to see these results. This, and this. You attack that each and every day, and if you don't see the results, then you ask questions, not being afraid to ask questions of, hey, I'm not feeling this way, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? If it's not happening, then maybe it's time for a change. And then you do your research, and then you talk to other people and ask them, hey, what has worked for you? This isn't working for me. And then you're able to kind of come up with your own routine. And I feel that, you get a lot of good stuff from other guys, but then you're able to chip away and know what needs to work for you. And then once you finally establish your routine, which up until last year, each year it's a little different.
Right.
Last year I added in more of the hot tub, cold tub, more of the contrast each and every day. A little less time rolling out and a little more time activating.
Yeah.
So I felt good last year by doing that, and you're constantly evolving. It's not like something in complete stone that I have to do this. You have a good base, but you can always chip away and change that. And what that does, I feel like for the game and how important it is that you've put the work in each and every day to get your body right for that night, and it gives you clarity to put the game on autopilot and go out and just play the game.
Right. Versus
if you're a little tight and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna stretch this out, but if I don't make it feel good, it's gonna be okay. And then you get on the field and your back's tight and you're thinking about it. Now your focus is on your back.
Yes.
Versus I need my focus to execute what I'm doing right now. So my routine needs to check all these boxes. And like I said, it can constantly change. It doesn't have to be in stone. But if you have a foundation of what you do, and that you're feeling better, and you don't have to feel as good as anyone. You don't have to feel great to perform great.
Yes.
But that, hey, I'm going to feel better when I do this. I'm going to go out there and try to execute that, so it frees me up to go play the game.
Yeah, absolutely. I know at least when my routine helped me be prepared, and whenever I was the most prepared, I was the most confident in competition. So I think that's a big reason why routine is so important. I'm going to talk a little bit about your family, man. That's one thing that knowing you is I've been fortunate enough to meet the Stassi family, and you guys are, for people out there that aren't local, like you guys are kind of a baseball family around here, right? And man, I just want to know how much that has like just helped your career. And I know like your younger brother Jake was a pitcher. Brock was a pitcher at Reno, and ended up being a hitter and playing in the big leagues. Your dad's an amazing baseball man. Like I got to, when I was training, throw some bullpens to him, and he always wanted to be in the trenches, man. So how much of that just being like living, breathing baseball has helped you like just in general, man?
I think it's definitely, I mean, they've all been huge in my career.
Yeah.
We played other sports growing up. We played soccer, we played football, basketball, baseball obviously, and so we were never really forced to play it. And I think that that's important at a young age to play different sports.
Yeah.
You train your body in different
100%.
ways, playing those, different strategies, different ways to think. I think that that's great, but I mean, they've been huge throughout my career, and my mom too. Can't forget my mom.
That's my fault.
My
Sorry
mom,
about that.
No, my mom, she's the backbone and making sure everyone was, getting to practice on time. And, my dad, when he was coaching, my mom would take us there, and,
Yeah.
uniforms that needed to be washed, and lunches that needed to be packed, and dinners that my mom, it couldn't have been done without her either. But, they've helped me out tremendously. And my dad being a coach, I think that my constant search to get better came from him.
Yeah.
Because he was always trying to become a better coach and go to different clinics. And like I mentioned earlier, going to Sac City and listening to Andy McKay speak about the mental game, really buying into that. And then, they've been everything. My younger brother, Jake, he's now in real estate, but, seeing him, the way he went about his work, and, the things that he learned from Long Beach State and Sac State,
Right.
has been pretty awesome. But they're everything to me, and yeah.
Yeah, man, I know it's been fun, like getting to know them, and like getting, just it's probably been 10, 12 years that I've known you guys, and just learning from your brothers, learning from your pops with the Gold Sox when I was coaching out there, and just, some things that help me navigate, handling these young kids, man. It's been cool to know you guys as a baseball family. Let's pivot a little bit. I want to touch on now, what do you think going for like a young, let's say a college catcher or maybe a minor league catcher, that one thing you would tell them, hey, to be a quality big league catcher, you got to have this focus, or you got to do these one or two things first, right? I know when I had guys that I threw to in pro ball, they were either one side or the other. They were the guy that was all about catching, that wanted to know everything I was doing, that really invested in my what I'm doing out there, right? And that's the guy I loved. And then I also threw to the guy that could care less about what I was doing, and he's worried about getting his 2-2 heater and hitting a dinger that day. So if you were to tell a young catcher, or maybe let's say your 20-year-old self, hey, what do I need to focus on to be a quality big league catcher first and foremost? What would that be? What would the one or two things be?
Man, that's a pretty good question right there. I think that, number one, catching is extremely hard. So not being too hard on yourself.
That's a great one.
Obviously, we've all heard it a million times. The ability to separate your defense from your offense is, everything. And I would say the communication, between your pitchers and yourself, and taking the time to invest in, so everyone's about the Rapsodo now, the TrackMan.
Right.
Taking time to understand that, and why if a guy spins a ball, do we want to throw it more towards the upper part of the zone?
Right.
Why if a guy sinks it, do we want to, and he's, got really good stuff down there, why do we want to stay down there?
Yes.
Having an understanding for that, so that you're able to kind of help them connect the dots.
Yeah.
Versus them, they are telling you this and this, and you're like, yeah, that sounds good, but you don't even have the understanding why. So investing your own time to understand what they want to do, and just being able to have tough conversations also to let them know, hey, like, it wasn't there, but let's come up with a solution. That kind of goes back to the Rapsodo and TrackMan. You can't argue the data.
Yes.
Like, I think it's a phenomenal tool. It's not the entire tool belt.
Yeah.
But it's about as good as it comes. So you're able to kind of connect the dots through there. Of, hey, like, your fastball's doing this. This is what I'm seeing. I think that if we can change up this, and this, then we can give it a shot. And you're just giving them suggestions.
Yeah.
They're the ones holding the ball. They're the ones that have the confidence, the conviction on the pitch that they have. But as far as the communication, I think that's where a lot of it comes from, and just letting them know that you're in the trenches with them.
Yeah,
letting
man.
them know that, hey, man, like, I'm sorry it didn't go our way. Like, let's figure it out. Like, let's review it, talk about it, whatever. Take the time. Just being available. Being available is the biggest thing, and not having an ego. If, hey, man, like, I know you shook me off, and I thought this was the right pitch. Well, we didn't throw that, so how do you know? Yeah,
right.
Maybe the conviction wasn't there on behalf of the pitcher, and so you can't ever say as a catcher that, I was right and you were wrong.
Yeah.
So it's constantly trying to learn from one another, and ultimately, I think as a catcher, it's best to have the conversations after of, like, if you shook me off and then you give up a homer, and then you come up to me and like, hey, like, what did you see there? I'm like, I just think we just didn't execute it as well, but I just want to let you know the reason why I went to this pitch is because I was thinking this. Yes. Not necessarily that it was going to work, that, hey, this is what I was thinking, and then over time we can develop on getting on the same page, because if I come and attack you, like I said, there's a lot of resistance between us, and then it's like he said this, and then if you shake me off, you keep shaking me off, I keep going to it, and then you throw that pitch, and then you end up giving up a homer. Now credibility is out the door.
Right.
So now
you better have a good reason why you kept putting it down there, huh?
Yeah. So it's constantly, just working on your relationship with the pitchers. And I mean, that was a pretty loaded question. I gave a lot of stuff there, and I could still go on, but I would say those are probably the most important things. Is understanding your pitchers, and everyone wants to hit homers. Everyone, that's important, but like, look at it as two completely different jobs.
That's amazing. That's a great way to look at it.
It's your hitting. You got your hitting coach, and you're talking with him, and then once you take your helmet off or take your batting gloves off, you're a catcher, and your pitcher wants to talk, your pitching coach wants to talk. So having the ability to separate those two is everything.
That's fantastic, man. Now going to the other side of the ball, man. Just from, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but just my experience of watching you in the hitting cage, you're a pretty technical guy when it comes to building your swing, right? But I think you and I had a conversation the other day how your success last year was probably one of your best years at the plate. I know just watching your at-bats, you looked like very comfortable. Like I looked at it, and I don't know how much of it made a difference, but I know when I was standing on the mound and a guy looked comfortable in the box, I took it a little bit personal. Like, so how do you think you went from understanding all these things about your swing, the way your body moves, getting to maybe a certain, I might screw this up, but a certain like posture or a certain launch angle or, a certain attack angle, whatever these things that on the hitting side, I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but, I hear these buzzwords. So how do you separate the very technical stuff and then just going out and still, like, I know on the throwing side it's like this. Like, if I was trying to achieve a mechanic, like in my side session or on the wall, if I went out and tried to achieve that perfect mechanic on the mound, I was setting myself up for failure. So what I'm getting at is, how do you work on something in the cage and then kind of freeing your mind up to go face a big league pitcher who is they're nasty these days, man. Like, just getting barrel to some of these pitches that these guys throw now is amazing. But like, we still have to work on all this stuff in the cage. How do you free that up to go hit a big league pitcher every night, man?
Man, number one, like I said about catching, hitting is also hard. Like, it's very hard. And for me, I've been around some really good coaches. Jeff Albert, who's now with the Cardinals, huge piece of my career and my development as a hitter.
Yeah.
Our coaches with the Angels, those guys have been phenomenal. John Maley and all those guys and that staff. And I would say the biggest thing is understanding what your miss is as a hitter. There's usually only two misses. Guys either too steep, or there is only two misses. Guys either too steep or they're too uphill.
Okay.
So understanding like which miss you are, and then what is going on, what's creating that miss. So your body, there's certain things that is rotational athletes that'll be limited, whether that's strength, whether that's mobility, and it kind of all relates back to what we talked about earlier as far as understanding what your body needs each and every day to go out there and perform the specific movements. And so having that understanding and then being able to understand it and then almost dumb it down. Okay, like I need to do this, I need to mobilize this or strengthen this, and then I just do it and I don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like I know that this is, if I stay on this track, that it's going to be fine. So having that understanding for me, knowing what like my body needed, and kind of like you said, the posture, just simply like changing my posture a little bit, and doing specific set of drills that I've learned over time to where I'm able to create a swing path that is towards the middle of the zone, which if you look, this is probably going on for 180 years, the game of baseball, the most damage is done in the middle of the zone. So I'm trying to set up my swing for the middle of the plate.
Right.
And I know the fact that the average miss in the big leagues, the data shows, is like 18 inches, which is humongous. In the big leagues is 18 inches. So those guys miss in the big leagues just like they do in high school and college. They just don't miss as much, and the stuff's better. So with all the stuff that you guys are doing too, with the tunneling and, you know, the pitching is just, it's ahead of the hitting.
Right.
So setting myself up to counteract what you guys are doing, I'm trying to tunnel you where you get hit hard the most. So if I know, if I'm facing you and, you know, you had nasty sinker slider, like I'm trying to raise it up. And I bet probably most of the hard hits and damage you gave up was probably up in the zone. So I'm going to set my sights higher up, and knowing that I'm training my bat path through the middle of the zone, and I'm trying to, you know, get on plane, you know, the midline of my body, and then extend it out front because the damage is done more out in front of the plate.
Yeah.
That when I see it pop there, I'm swinging. And so my focus is in that area, and I'm so locked in there that I have the confidence to do that. I'm going to take it a step back. I have the confidence to do that because I know the drills that I do each and every day provide the freedom and the clarity in my mind to be able to execute that. Like the drills I do each and every day, or, you know, I might not feel as good, or I might spend a little extra time, but I know that if I put the time in and I get the right ball flight that I want there, that I'm okay. I check that box. It's just like lifting. You warm up. I'm warming up with 45 pounds. I have the short bat, top hand, bottom hand, whatever. I do that, and then once I go into my front hip flips, it's like adding, you know, 95 pounds. And the game is at 315.
Okay.
So if I want to get up to 315 pounds, I got to have this progression getting there. So if I'm at 225 and I'm a little off, I still have, you know, there's more resistance coming at me, that I have some time to be able to get, okay, like I need to get here, 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 boom. Like I know my game plan for the night. I'm going to search here. So I'm trying to execute that. Okay, like I've checked that box.
Right.
So now I'm getting more confidence, and my thoughts and everything are shrinking more towards game time. So then when I'm out there and you're facing a guy and, you know, there's 40,000 in there, that I'm able to have my focus directly on the area that I want to hunt. And if it's not there, I leave it alone. And, you know, it's not going to go perfect every time, but I know that with my routine in the cage, you know, in the weight room, in the training room, that I can go out there and I know that my focus can strictly be on that for that night to try to give myself the best chance. Because it's never going to be perfect.
Right, hitting's hard, man.
It's hard. It's a hard game. It's the hardest game in the world. So that's
great stuff, dude. That's a very in-depth outlook to it, dude. That's great stuff, man. We'll wrap this up a little bit here, man. We'll go two more things. What's next for Max this year? What are some goals? What are you know, some things you'd like to see happen going into the season with the Angels this year, man?
Number one, I want to win a World Series. I want to win a World Series. I want to win. That is why we play this game, to win.
100%.
You want to give it your all. You want to stay dialed. You want to be available to your teammates on and off the field. And I think that ultimately, with all the player development stuff that's going on, I think it's phenomenal, but let's not lose the vision of like winning. Like there's nothing better than winning. We've both been a part of winning teams.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're there every single day and you give it your all, and then when you come into that clubhouse and the music's blaring, everyone's fired up, that's all that matters. And I want to win and just contribute. I want to contribute.
100%,
I mean, everybody wants to do good. Yeah. Nobody wants to not do good. And, so your individual stuff, I think it can come as a byproduct of, like we talked about, your routine each and every day. And yeah, I have a vision of what I want to do, but I know that the most important thing is the things that I can control, of my effort, my focus, my intention, and kind of just letting it happen from there. But I want to win.
Hey, man. I always go back to a quote that one of my coaches in Washington said, Bobby Henley. He's from L.A., Lower Alabama. He would tell us there's no better feeling, boys, than that of champagne running down the crack of your ass. So I can definitely get on board with that, man. I had a couple times in the big leagues where we sprayed champagne, and I'll go back to it. There is no better feeling than that, man, especially if that's what you work for. We're going to flip this a little bit, man. Like, you've known me for a long time. I'll let you run a question here. What do you got for me?
Oh, man. Why should an athlete come here to train? What separates you guys from any other place in the area, country? Just why should they train here?
That's a great question. Me being the owner of Optimum Athletes, I think what we want to do better is, I have a saying, if you can impact a person, you can impact a player. So I think that, and I want to be the shop that when you walk in the door, you feel like an entire staff cares about you. And I want to care about these kids, you, more so as a big picture type thing. Like, I want to know that you're doing well, even when you're not playing well. Like, that you're okay coming in here, we're going in the right direction. And I just think developing the person more so, man. Like, we're not the best at the world at research and development. I'm probably not the best throwing coach in the world. Like, I don't have the smartest staff in here, but I got a bunch of people that care about you when you come in the door. They're going to invest in your process. They're going to take the time, and we're going to find out what you need, and we're going to get to the bottom of getting you better at the end of the day. So I mean, I hope you can agree to that, and that's the approach I try to take to anything, man. When I try to impact the person before I impact the player.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely. If you could do one thing different in your career, looking back, you had a very successful career, but if there's one thing that you could do different, what would you do?
Man, I think I would have done exactly, and this is what I said, like, I look up to the way you go about your business, man. And I think I went about my business very well, but I left it to other people to find the answers for me. When they put it in front of me, I did it harder and with more focus and more intent than anybody else, I feel like. But I didn't spend the time on the back end trying to educate myself and trying to put more bullets in my gun. Not to like be an asshole when it came to, challenging a coach, but I love it when a kid asks me like, why am I doing that? And they'll stop right there. And I have to, hold up my end and be able to explain why I'm doing that. And I didn't ask why enough. I was just like, oh, cool. You must know what you're doing. I'm doing that, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability. So I feel like without educating myself, kind of like that's why I want to touch on, like, how did you get so good and why did you get so good at educating yourself and making your routine and your process yours. I try to empower our athletes that they have a say-so in their career. And I feel like I let everybody else kind of have a say-so on what I did. And I just did it at the effort level and, the focus I wanted to. So I think if I could be a little bit different, as I would get in the trenches and I would educate myself a little bit more on why we do certain things.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Well, that's good stuff, Max. Of course, I'll be rooting for you. We'll put a finish on this off season. We're getting close to putting another one in the books. I appreciate you trusting us to be a little piece of your process, man. And I wish you nothing but success for the rest of your career and for 2021.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, guys.